everyone, it's Beth Sager. Today's Lex Local. I'm with Joe Pato, who's running for re-election, correct?
Correct.
For the Select Committee, correct?
Select Board.
Select Board, sorry. Yes, Select Board, right. So some people think that this is a really hard job with a lot of criticism. What did you think of your term in office?
So I've served for 4 terms, 12 years now.
Okay.
It can be a hard job. It's a volunteer job.
Right.
But I have a passion for civic engagement,
Okay.
and I really like the opportunity to constructively give back to the community. So I don't find interacting with members of the community to be a hardship.
Okay.
I actually get a lot of energy from that. I'm running for re-election. You wouldn't normally think of someone like that as being an introvert.
Right.
But I am, though I've also taught classes, lectured. So I feel comfortable in front of a crowd speaking, and I feel comfortable interacting with people one-on-one and finding ways to create solutions for their issues. So I do not at all consider interacting with the public to be a hardship.
Oh, that's good. I mean, it's a lot, right? I mean, a lot of work. What are your passion projects coming up?
Well, I have a number of priorities. Some of them are ones that I carry over throughout my term, things like environmental and climate issues that I think are immensely important for us. But facing the community right now, I think we have, I really want to help bring the community together around a high school project that meets the needs of our students, our taxpayers, and our general community. Right? So my passion is to make sure we're finding the right balance for the public as a whole.
Do you have any details that you'd like to share as far as your views on that?
Yeah, I think I've been fairly public. I'm a member of the school building committee. I've been working on that for, I think, just over 2 years at this point. And I believe that the proposal that the committee is bringing forward is really the best compromise that we've been able to find. I know when I started, I was hoping to say, can't we do this in place cheaply with no disturbance?
Right.
That would be ideal. But working through it, those solutions really aren't available. They're more expensive. They're very disruptive to students and to the general use of the facility as a whole. So I think that the school building committee's proposal of the Bloom project, which is still being tuned,
Right.
I think is the best available proposal to move forward with. And I think one thing that's really important is moving forward, because unnecessary delay costs a lot of money. A lot of what we're seeing as a challenge is the price tag. It's huge.
Right.
But construction inflation is high. So as we wait, it costs us more.
Right.
And one of the things we also found was a lot of the ideas that have floated around really do cost quite a bit of money. And that a more direct approach like the Bloom project, which builds all new without disturbing the students while they're going to school, is both cheaper and kinder and faster. So that's
Right.
my preferred direction.
Okay. So you said environmental issues. What are you proposing? What is...
Well, it's a continuation. I worked hard with the Sustainable Lexington Committee over the years to bring forward a climate action plan, a sustainable building, an integrated building design program, design programs for how we maintain our buildings in a sustainable fashion for the town. Shorter, in more immediate term, one of the things we've been working on, and I'm part of the Waste Reduction Task Force, is looking at how to broaden curbside compost collection. You might say, how is that reduction? It's reduction because it's taking waste out of the expensive waste stream, where we have to pay for pickup as well as pay for tipping fees at the incinerator, which charges by the ton, and instead redirect them to a commercial composting facility where the waste is now productive nutrients that come back and are available as compost for people's yards and the like.
Right.
So that's while it costs us to do that, it saves money from what we would have been spending on just throwing it away. One of my passions is not throwing away good money after bad. And redirecting how we spend and spending so you're getting a good return is really important.
Okay. So what, beyond, civic engagement, like what is your experience outside of that leads you to be so good at it?
Well, thank you for that comment.
Yeah.
So I professionally am a research computer scientist.
Okay.
I worked for Hewlett-Packard for HP Labs for 28 years, and I was a visiting scientist at MIT for, I think, 10 or 12 years. A little odd to be a visiting scientist that long, but for part of that time I was working for HP Labs, and I had a joint appointment. So I was a research computer scientist, which my area was, I was the chief scientist for HP for information security, but I do a lot of data analysis. And some of the tasks I had were, I chaired a National Academy of Sciences committee on biometrics. I chaired a number of international standards activities, and that gave me training in how to work with people and find compromise. It's amazing how difficult it can be sometimes when there are ingrained opinions. But to move us forward, I've had lots of experience in finding how to get to yes.
Right. That's important.
Right.
Yeah, I can see that. What about the conflict about the MBTA communities? What's your take on that?
So I have two important things about that. Okay. One is, and I'm going to reach over here because it's not for notes, it's everybody in town should have received a warrant in the mail for a special town meeting that's going to be scheduled for February 3rd. And the important thing about that is state law required the select board to call this meeting for early February, but we won't be taking substantive action in February. It'll be in March. Okay. And that's because state law also says that when you're dealing with a zoning article, the town meeting can't act until the planning board has had its hearings and written a report, and they have a certain amount of time to do that. So we won't have that information back. So first part is, this is an issue of zoning that we are going to be addressing at special town meeting mid-March, substantively. Now, let's get to the issue, right? First of all, seeing what has come, that there was a rapid rate of projects and a large number of units proposed, I favor adjusting the zoning so that we're compliant with state law, but we have control over expansion, so we can slow things down and absorb what came. If you go back to why we have this zoning, not the MBTA state law portion of it, but why was Lexington interested in creating multifamily zoning? This goes back for years. If you go to the comprehensive plan, which was called Lex Next, there was a lot of discussion in the community about the need for varying types of housing, not just large single-family dwellings, which is what the builders typically are building these days, and for the past 2 decades at least. But having housing where people in town can downsize. Seniors like me, I qualify for Medicare this year, have the opportunity to find single-level housing, where the housing is adjacent to commercial retail shops, restaurants and the like, where it's pedestrian friendly, not something we have a whole lot of in Lexington, and there was a lot of pent-up demand. So from that perspective, the zoning was a great idea. When the discussions were going on, there was a lot of reference to, we haven't seen much come like this. So there was a little more generous, maybe a lot more generous zoning for where this could be on the assumption that it was going to come in at a slower rate.
Right.
What I said at the time, because I am very responsive to that request for let's get a variety of housing here at different price points, at different style, I said, if we find that this is coming in denser and faster than we were expecting, we have the opportunity and even the obligation to reconsider. And that's exactly where we are today. So I think it's absolutely right that we are taking action to move forward. Now, I don't know what town meeting is going to do.
Right.
I know that I personally support the draft I've seen so far of the motion. And as a select board member, I'm always careful to say, I'm not promising a result, and I'm not promising even what my vote is, because until we have the motion on the floor and we have a vote, something could change to put a poison pill into it.
Right.
But from what I see right now, it's a healthy change that helps us regain more control over the kind of development and still be compliant with state law. And one of the other things that's really important about this is that there's a lot of, I would say, fear, uncertainty, and doubt out in the community about the number of units that are coming. But when you look at the proposals, about 60% of those units are one-bedroom and studio apartments. And when you look at the impact that has on town services, either the school system or emergency services, other kinds of town services, the financial impacts are relatively minor for that kind of unit. And that's about 60% of it. So even though we have a large number coming, I'm not particularly concerned about how we absorb this over the next 3 years of construction and then the leasing or sales. That, it's not like you all of a sudden have 1,200 units occupied tomorrow.
Right.
But I wouldn't want to see this rate continue year after year. That, I think, that isn't going to work for us. So taking a breath is absolutely a valuable thing for us to do.
Okay. What else would you like the public to know about your viewpoints or abilities or?
Well, I think I bring a calm perspective and deeply analytic perspective based on my professional background to how I approach problems in Lexington. I hold regular office hours every week that are open to the public, and whenever there's a thorny issue coming to town, I go out of my way to create public forums so that we can have a good dialogue. Because while I certainly have opinions, it's not everyone has a view, I'm a representative of the public. And my duty is to listen and get a sense of where the community is willing to be led. I don't shirk my role as a leader, but you can only be a leader for a community where it's willing to go. Provide the information so that everyone can make a quality decision, and then abide by what the community has said. So I think bringing those perspectives and approaches is really important. And fortunately, I enjoy the activity. So it is something I'm hoping that your viewers will agree with me on and offer me one of their votes this March.
Awesome. All right. Well, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
And yours. Thank you.